LOT Polish Airlines, established in 1929 and commemorating its 10th year at the New York World's Fair Polish Pavilion, had much to celebrate. It was Poland's domestic and international airline, flying from Poland to, as shown in the above 1931 poster by graphic artist Tadeusz Gronowski, Czechoslovakia, Estonia, Latvia, Romania, Austria, Hungary, the Nordic countries, and the Free City of Danzig. German, Soviet, and Lithuanian flags are not present since Poland had diplomatic relations with the first two, but discouraged travel to them. Gronowski also designed the LOT crane Żuraw logo adopted in 1931 and still used today. By 1938, LOT Airlines had the longest north to south route in Europe. The plane in the poster and the model underline the fact that Poland, while having an air industry, mostly military, bought planes from the international market. A Dutch Fokker F7 trimotor, as shown in the poster, and the Lockheed 14H Super Electra, the model. The Super Electra and LOT established a record first in 1938. The new plane was powered by two Pratt & Whitney R1690 engineers, carried 12 passengers, and fully loaded could fly 2,800 kilometers or 1,740 miles before refueling. LOT Polish Airlines ordered 10 of them. A Polish crew, Wacław Makowski, LOT director and first pilot, Zbigniew Wyszkierski, second pilot, Szymon Piskosz, mechanic and radio navigator, Alfons Rzeczewski, radio navigator, and Jerzy Kraskowski, assistant. Makowski had chosen a very experienced crew of LOT employees, but also those who would be able to share their knowledge with others. The first leg of their journey was by train from Warsaw to Paris, where they met with the European representatives of Lockheed. They then proceeded to Le Havre, boarding the Queen Mary and arriving in New York. They then flew to the West Coast, stopping in Kansas City, and went on to Burbank, where they met with the board of Lockheed. On May 12, 1938, the local California press, including the Los Angeles Times, announced that on the next day, a Polish aircrew proposed to fly from Burbank, California airfield across the Atlantic to Warsaw, Poland. The next day, the 13th, at 4:20 a.m. in the morning, the crew, accompanied by Lockheed mechanics and board members and local press, inspected the plane. At 6 a.m., with Makowski at the controls, SP-LMK lifted off and flew to Mexiclan, Mexico. Since flying was to be limited to daylight hours, they spent the night before flying off to Mexico City. On May 15th, Mexico City to Guatemala City. On May 16th, they flew from Guatemala to France Field in the Canal Zone in Panama. Here was an unexpected delay when radio operator Alfons Rzeczewski became seriously ill. After 4 days, he was left to recuperate, and on May 21st, the reduced crew left Panama and the Canal Zone. They flew over the Pacific, and for the first time, a LOT plane crossed the equator. They departed Buenos Aires, hugging the Atlantic coast through Palolas and Porto Alegre, Brazil, finally reaching the then capital of Rio de Janeiro. They must have admired the giant Art Deco statue of Christ the Redeemer with his outstretched arms. Were they aware that it had been designed by the Franco-Polish sculptor Paul Lewandowski and only completed 7 years before? On June 3rd, they left Dakar for the French colony of Morocco and its capital, Casablanca. The next to last leg, Casablanca, Tunis, Rome, was started on June 4th, and the 7.5-hour flight included crossing the Mediterranean. Landing in Rome that same day, they avoided its sights and attractions, and on June 5th left for Warsaw. The journey was covered in 4.5 hours. The reception at Warsaw's Okęcie Airport was fantastic. The Polish press had been following the progress of SP-BNF, and large, excited crowds had come out. Governments and Lot officials were also happy to praise the achievements and those who had accomplished it. In addition to crossing the equator twice, a first for Lot, the crew had spent 85 hours in the air and logged nearly 25,000 kilometers, 15,532 miles. 4 legs of the journey included long distances over open water. The flight convinced Lot to make plans to fly to the Americas in 1940 or 41. It also meant that planes could be flown around the world and not be crated and sent by ships. The path pioneered by the Polish Lot pilots became important in 1942 when the United States began flying planes, supplies, and personnel to our allies by means of this route, abbreviated for direct USA to Natal, Brazil flights. In September 1939, Lot Airlines was pressed into military service. The Electras were used in a poster by Władysław T. Benda, who had popularized the Polish cause in World War I, highlighting the Polish Air Force in England. Here, the Lockheed Electra 14 planes are in the background, and the legendary winged Hussar is mounted on a Pegasus. Among the other artifacts that the Polish Museum of America received from the Polish Fair Pavilion were 2 large symbolic paintings by Jan Henryk de Rosen, Polish Past and Polish Future. They have been discussed by our curator, Julita Siegel, and can be found on our YouTube channel. However, I would like to discuss one of the figures in the Polish Future painting. This is the aviator. He is presented in a mid-20th century flying suit and helmet. As we saw in this presentation, Makowski wore that suit throughout the 20s and early 30s. Lot continued to buy foreign aircraft after World War II for its international and domestic flights. First British and American, then Soviet, and finally after 1989, American Boeings for its international service.